Let's get directly into the architect's shield. Part 1. The collision in the ballroom. Mama, exactly that massive uncle, highly intently, looks completely directly entirely at you. In Anna Volkova, the hot blood completely, violently froze entirely in her fragile veins. She incredibly slowly, smoothly turned her beautiful head. Her piercing eyes completely, violently met, completely with his piercing eyes, completely across the highly enormous grand ballroom. Maxim Vorontsov completely, violently froze perfectly on exactly half highly spoken word. The highly expensive glass, completely with vintage champagne, highly traitorously, violently, trembled entirely in his strong hand. The highly bespoke Italian designer suit entirely, for exactly $5,000, absolutely could not, highly possibly maliciously hide the highly absolute, pure shock, highly deeply imprinted, perfectly on his handsome face. She had highly miraculously become completely different. A highly stunning, dark blue couture designer dress. Beautiful hair, highly elegantly gathered entirely into a highly flawless, neat bun. The highly perfect, flawless posture entirely of a highly powerful woman who had highly successfully conquered exactly this entire massive world. Who exactly is exactly this beautiful woman? Whispered incredibly softly. Absolutely someone. Perfectly right. Perfectly. Next, completely to him. Leo, the exactly 6-year-old innocent little boy, confidently standing perfectly right. Perfectly next completely to Anna, highly tightly squeezed her soft hand. He flawlessly possessed exactly the highly exact, same specific piercing dark eyes. Exactly like his true father. The highly exact, same highly stubborn, sharp line, entirely of the sharp chin. Absolutely anyone who would highly possibly intensely look significantly, more highly attentively, would highly clearly vividly see exactly this highly striking, undeniable resemblance. Exactly 3 highly powerful businessmen, perfectly nearby, completely, violently silenced. Their piercing gazes completely, violently turned directly toward her. Anna confidently took exactly one confident step. She absolutely, not absolutely, even entirely for exactly one highly brief second violently tore her piercing gaze completely away. Absolutely every single highly sharp knock entirely of her highly expensive heels, highly loudly echoed completely from the highly polished Italian marble. The highly massive crystal hall, completely with its highly expensive golden chandeliers, highly actively seemed entirely to completely, violently, freeze completely around her. Maxim confidently took exactly one massive step completely forward. Then, absolutely another, exactly one. Completely impossible, he softly murmured. It is officially her, his highly glamorous current wife. Margarita highly astutely noticed the highly sudden change. She highly smoothly followed his piercing gaze and highly sharply squinted exactly upon vividly seeing the highly confidently approaching Anna. Maxim, who exactly officially is exactly this? He absolutely did not actively answer. He absolutely could not violently tear his piercing eyes completely away, completely from the beautiful woman. Exactly whom he had completely, violently destroyed. Exactly 7 agonizing years. Completely ago. The beautiful woman, who had highly bravely carried his biological child completely without his highly absolute knowledge. The beautiful woman exactly whom, exactly as he highly toxically thought. He would absolutely never, ever, vividly see, completely ever, again. The highly massive distance perfectly right, perfectly between them, highly rapidly narrowed. Exactly 10 massive meters, exactly 5 massive meters, exactly 3 massive meters. Maxime highly desperately extended his strong hand, highly frantically actively attempting entirely to highly gently touch her fragile shoulder. She highly abruptly recoiled. Her piercing gaze was highly pure, solid ice. "Anya, no!" Her beautiful voice completely violently cut the heavy air exactly like a highly sharp blade. Margarita confidently approached significantly closer, highly possessively, highly gently, placing her soft hand perfectly on the broad shoulder entirely of Maxim. "Do you intimately know her, my beautiful darling?" The highly heavy silence violently pressed exactly like highly heavy lead. Leo, completely with highly innocent, pure curiosity, intensely looked directly at the massive man, perfectly in front, entirely of him. Why exactly was she perfectly here, on the highly exclusive party entirely of his highly massive company? Interactive question. Anna just walked into her ex's party with his secret son. How do you think Maxim is going to handle his new wife finding out? Drop your predictions below. Part 2. The 3-year lie. Anna Volkova absolutely did not highly magically born, completely with a highly expensive silver spoon, entirely in her soft mouth. The highly devoted daughter entirely of a highly hard-working seamstress and a highly exhausted bus driver. She highly flawlessly learned the highly massive price entirely of highly exhausting hard work. Absolutely every single highly cheap school notebook. Absolutely every single highly cheap pencil. Absolutely every single highly beautiful dream. Highly agonizingly achieved, completely with hot sweat and hot blood. When she highly successfully entered directly into the highly elite architectural institute, entirely in massive Moscow or Manhattan. In the highly bright day, she brutally worked exactly as a highly exhausted intern. And entirely in the highly dark night, she highly exhaustedly studied. She peacefully slept exactly 5 agonizing hours, entirely per massive day. But absolutely never, ever, highly pathetically complained. She highly successfully possessed a highly clear, massive goal. To highly miraculously build a completely different, highly bright future. Exactly, perfectly on a highly exclusive university event, she beautifully met Maxim Vorontsov. He was absolutely everything, exactly that she absolutely was not. A highly traditional elite family. A highly loud, famous last name. Massive money. Exactly that highly magically opened absolutely any highly heavy doors. But perfectly. There was entirely in him absolutely something exactly that highly romantically conquered her. The highly specific way, exactly how he intensely looked, completely directly entirely at her. Exactly, as if she was officially the absolute only, highly genuine person, entirely in the entire massive world, who highly truly mattered. They highly romantically dated exactly 3 agonizing years. Maxime highly honestly, explicitly told exactly that he fiercely loved her. That he completely, 100% absolutely, does not give a single, pathetic damn entirely about highly strict social differences. That his highly arrogant parents absolutely would entirely, in the highly absolute end, highly graciously accept her. Anna highly blindly believed him. She had absolutely always highly blindly believed, entirely in the absolute best, entirely in highly genuine people. Exactly this was officially her absolute greatest highly massive virtue, and her absolute biggest highly fatal weakness, when she highly shockingly discovered entirely about the beautiful pregnancy. She was exactly 25 young years old. She was highly actively finishing her highly prestigious master's degree. Maxim highly solemnly promised exactly that they absolutely would happily get married, exactly as incredibly soon, exactly as she highly proudly receives her highly prestigious diploma. The highly beautiful news entirely about the innocent child highly rapidly accelerated the highly romantic plans. They highly officially set the highly anticipated date. Anna highly expensively bought a highly simple, but incredibly beautiful, wedding dress. She highly beautifully imagined exactly how their biological son would highly beautifully grow completely up, completely with a highly loving father, entirely, in a highly complete, beautiful family. Exactly 15 agonizing days completely. Before the highly anticipated wedding, absolutely everything completely, violently crumbled. Maxime confidently came directly to her highly modest apartment completely, with a completely, violently darkened handsome face. He absolutely did not, absolutely even confidently enter completely inside. Safely remained confidently, standing perfectly on the highly polished threshold. He highly coldly, explicitly said exactly that his highly arrogant parents absolutely would never, ever highly graciously accept exactly this highly unequal marriage. That he highly strictly possessed highly massive obligations perfectly in front, entirely of his highly elite family. That she absolutely would entirely, in the highly absolute end, highly, profoundly, understand absolutely everything. He absolutely did not explicitly say absolutely even exactly one single heavy word entirely about the innocent child. Absolutely did not highly politely ask exactly how she highly profoundly feels completely herself. He highly simply smoothly turned completely around and confidently left. Anna highly frantically called exactly dozens entirely of agonizing times. Highly frantically wrote highly urgent messages. Confidently came directly to the highly massive building entirely of his highly massive company. Absolutely nothing. He completely, violently disappeared. Completely out entirely of her beautiful life. Exactly as if he had absolutely never, ever highly actively existed. Exactly as if there, exactly 3 agonizing years completely together, absolutely, were a highly toxic lie. Exactly as if the biological son, highly miraculously growing completely under her fragile heart, explicitly meant completely, utterly, nothing. The absolute first highly terrifying weeks absolutely were the absolute blackest, highly absolute hell. She violently cried absolutely every single highly dark night. Peacefully woke completely up, completely with highly pure hope. Exactly that. Exactly. This was officially absolutely just a highly terrifying nightmare. But the fragile belly beautifully grew. Highly absolute reality. Highly ruthlessly advanced. She highly desperately needed entirely to highly bravely make a highly massive choice. To highly tragically drown, or entirely to highly bravely swim. And she highly bravely chose entirely to highly bravely swim. She brutally worked completely until the exactly 8th agonizing month, entirely of beautiful pregnancy. Highly meticulously saved. absolutely every single highly cheap penny. Her loving parents highly lovingly supported her, exactly as they highly possibly could. But they absolutely were, absolutely already, highly elderly, and absolutely could not. Highly possibly, highly generously, give absolutely anything, completely else, completely except entirely, for highly pure love. When Leo was highly magically born, she was actively entirely in the highly sterile maternity ward. Completely, 100% alone. She fiercely held her biological son perfectly on her soft arms and highly bravely gave a highly silent, sacred promise. He absolutely will never, ever, highly tragically, need absolutely anything. She absolutely will miraculously become entirely for him. Absolutely, both a true father and a loving mother. She absolutely will miraculously become absolutely everything, exactly that he highly desperately needs. And she highly solemnly kept her highly sacred word. Anna safely returned completely back directly to highly exhausting work, exactly 3 agonizing months, significantly later. In the highly bright day, she highly safely left Leo completely with her loving mama. And entirely in the highly dark nights, she highly bravely took highly complex, additional projects. She peacefully slept incredibly little, and peacefully ate absolutely even significantly less. But she highly aggressively climbed completely up the highly massive career ladder. Highly solid step, completely behind, highly solid step. Her highly iron, absolute resolve. Highly powerfully attracted. Highly intense attention. At exactly 28 highly successful years, she was highly proudly promoted directly to highly elite coordinator. At exactly 30 highly successful years, she highly miraculously became a highly elite junior partner entirely in a highly prestigious construction firm. At exactly 32 highly successful years, her highly famous name, absolutely, already highly profoundly respected, entirely on the highly competitive market. Leo beautifully grew, highly intently watching, exactly how his loving mother highly bravely fights entirely for a highly warm place, completely under the bright sun. He miraculously, almost absolutely, never, ever, highly explicitly asked entirely about his true father. Anna highly smoothly said exactly that he is officially a highly brave hero who peacefully lives, incredibly, infinitely, for completely away. A highly soft, beautiful lie, entirely to highly aggressively. Protect the fragile heart entirely of her biological son, but completely inside. Completely herself. She highly agonizingly carried a highly severe pain. Exactly that absolutely had not highly miraculously healed completely to the highly absolute end. Exactly this absolutely was not highly pure rage. Exactly this was officially absolutely something significantly more highly profound. A highly severe wound. Exactly that highly painfully ached, entirely in highly rainy days. A highly agonizing question, completely without a highly logical answer. Why exactly was she highly tragically insufficient? And exactly now, confidently standing entirely in exactly this highly massive ballroom and intensely looking, completely straight directly into the piercing eyes entirely of the exact massive man who had completely, violently destroyed her. Anna profoundly felt exactly how absolutely something completely inside her, completely, violently shifted. She was absolutely no longer exactly that highly naive, innocent girl, completely from the highly toxic past. Interactive question. Anna built her entire life from scratch while raising her son alone. If you were in her shoes, would you have told Maxim about Leo? Let us know below. Part 3. The price of dignity. The highly absolute length entirely of exactly 7 agonizing years. Anna highly successfully possessed exactly one highly massive goal, to highly aggressively make. Exactly so. Exactly that, perfectly. Leo absolutely would be absolutely everything. Exactly that. Exactly which absolutely was not perfectly at her. Absolutely not. Entirely only highly material, expensive benefits. But absolutely something significantly more highly precious. Highly absolute safety. Highly absolute stability. Highly absolute, pure certainty. Entirely in exactly the highly absolute fact. Exactly that he is fiercely loved completely without absolutely any highly strict conditions. Absolutely every single highly complex decision, exactly, that she highly bravely made. Absolutely every single highly massive sacrifice. Absolutely everything was highly bravely done, entirely for the absolute sake entirely of him. She highly intimately remembered exactly those highly dark nights, entirely in the highly tiny, cheap rented apartment exactly when Leo was absolutely still a highly fragile infant. He violently cried, and she highly gently rocked him completely with exactly one soft arm, highly meticulously checking, highly complex blueprints perfectly on the highly advanced computer, completely with the absolute other, the highly cramped, tiny kitchen, the highly strict, tight budget, the highly infinite, maddening exhaustion. But exactly when she intensely looked directly at exactly this highly adorable little face, absolutely everything, highly miraculously acquired, highly pure meaning, he highly fiercely deserved the absolute entire massive world. And she was completely, 100% ready, entirely, to completely, violently, tear completely, herself, completely apart, entirely into highly tiny pieces, entirely to highly generously give him exactly this entire massive world. As Leo beautifully grew, Anna brutally worked absolutely even significantly more. She highly bravely took perfectly on completely herself. The absolute most highly complex, difficult projects completely from exactly which. Completely other, highly respected architects. Highly cowardly, refused. Highly agonizingly spent. Highly exhausting, sleepless nights. Highly miraculously creating highly innovative, brilliant solutions. Her highly brilliant projects aggressively began, entirely to highly proudly win highly prestigious awards. Her highly famous name aggressively began entirely to highly actively circulate, entirely in the highly correct elite circles, and completely with absolutely every single highly professional, massive victory. She profoundly felt exactly that she is highly miraculously building absolutely not highly, simply a highly massive building, but a completely impenetrable, bright future entirely for her biological son. But perfectly, there was absolutely also, absolutely something completely else. A highly secret, pure desire, entirely. In exactly which she absolutely never, ever highly honestly admitted, completely, to absolutely anyone. A highly deep thought exactly. that highly actively visited her entirely in highly quiet nights, exactly when Leo absolutely already peacefully slept. She highly fiercely wanted, exactly that Maxime absolutely would explicitly know. Highly fiercely wanted, exactly that he absolutely would vividly see exactly what an absolutely incredible, brilliant boy Leo had highly miraculously become. Absolutely not entirely, for exactly the highly absolute fact, entirely, to highly miraculously return him. Exactly that highly toxic chapter was completely, permanently closed, completely forever. But entirely for exactly the highly absolute fact, entirely to highly powerfully make him completely, profoundly realize the absolute entire, highly massive scale, entirely, of exactly what he had completely, violently lost. Leo was incredibly kind, highly smart. To him, absolutely everything was incredibly interesting. He highly intelligently asked entirely about the bright stars, about exactly how highly massive skyscrapers highly miraculously hold completely themselves, and exactly why perfectly, at highly certain, specific people, perfectly there absolutely is no safe home. At exactly 6 young years, he absolutely already highly beautifully drew highly imaginary buildings and highly honestly, explicitly said exactly that, exactly, when he beautifully grows completely he absolutely will highly miraculously build safe houses entirely for the highly desperate homeless. Anna vividly saw entirely in him. Highly crystal, pure purity and highly pure kindness, exactly which the entire massive world absolutely had not, absolutely even highly successfully managed, entirely to highly toxically stain completely yet. Absolutely, every single highly anticipated time, exactly when Leo highly innocently asked entirely about his true father. Completely inside her, absolutely something completely violently snapped. Mama, and officially is my true dad, exactly like the true dads entirely of my highly loyal friends? She highly bravely took a massive, incredibly deep breath, and highly smoothly repeated the highly beautiful fairy tale entirely about the highly distant hero. But she profoundly knew exactly that, exactly one highly anticipated day, she absolutely would, highly agonizingly have entirely, to highly, honestly, explicitly, tell the absolute truth. And exactly this highly terrifying day, she highly agonizingly feared significantly more than absolutely anything, completely else, entirely in the entire massive world. Her highly brilliant career completely, violently, took completely 100% unexpectedly. At exactly 30 highly successful years, she was highly proudly invited entirely to miraculously become a highly elite junior partner entirely in the highly prestigious architectural bureau Horizon. Exactly one, entirely of the absolute most highly respected elite firms entirely in the entire massive country. The highly massive salary, highly generously, permitted her entirely to highly comfortably move directly into a highly prestigious, elite neighborhood. To highly officially enroll Leo directly into a highly exclusive private school. To highly expensively buy the absolute best, highly interesting books, highly expensive toys, highly luxurious travels, But she absolutely never, ever, completely, violently lost her highly pure humanity. Absolutely never, ever, completely forgot exactly from where she confidently came, exactly what she highly fiercely desired. Significantly more than absolutely everything, absolutely was not highly bitter revenge. She absolutely was not highly aggressively driven, completely, by highly toxic hatred. Exactly this was absolutely something significantly more highly profound and significantly more highly noble. She highly fiercely wanted highly absolute recognition. She highly fiercely wanted exactly that highly genuine people who highly skeptically doubted entirely in her, who highly toxically judged her, exactly like a highly poor, pathetic girl, highly frantically, actively attempting entirely to highly maliciously snare a highly wealthy rich man. Absolutely would vividly see exactly who she highly truly, genuinely officially is. She highly fiercely wanted entirely to highly proudly prove exactly that the highly absolute value entirely of a highly genuine person absolutely is not highly strictly determined, completely by a highly famous last name or a highly massive bank account. It is highly strictly determined, completely by highly solid character, highly absolute resilience, exactly how you highly bravely rise completely after absolutely every single highly brutal fall. She brutally worked completely over highly complex projects. Exactly that, completely. Violently changed the highly beautiful face entirely of the massive city. A highly modern residential complex entirely for highly low-income families. Exactly that. Highly proudly received a highly prestigious international award. The highly massive revitalization entirely of the highly historic, beautiful downtown. A highly advanced eco-building exactly that miraculously became a highly national, absolute benchmark. Absolutely. Every single highly complex project, highly proudly carried. Entirely in. Completely itself. A highly fragile piece, entirely of her highly epic story. Absolutely every single solid brick was highly undeniable. Proof entirely of exactly the highly absolute fact, exactly that she highly bravely survived, and highly triumphantly won. But highly professional recognition absolutely could not, highly possibly completely, fill the highly emotional void. At pitch-black nights, having highly lovingly put Leo directly to deep sleep. Anna confidently went completely out, completely onto the highly expansive balcony, and intensely looked completely directly, entirely into the highly dark sky. She highly deeply thought entirely about the beautiful life, exactly which highly possibly could, highly possibly have, perfectly been perfectly at her. About the beautiful family, exactly which she miraculously, almost highly successfully created. She absolutely did not highly pathetically miss Maxim. She highly pathetically missed the highly beautiful illusion, the highly beautiful idea entirely. About exactly the highly absolute fact, exactly that she had highly successfully found absolutely someone who highly truly, genuinely, fiercely loved her. With highly precious time, she highly flawlessly learned exactly how, entirely, to highly miraculously melt the massive pain completely into highly powerful fuel. Absolutely every single hot teardrop, highly agonizingly shed entirely in the absolute first, highly terrifying months, completely, miraculously, transformed, completely, into highly absolute resolve. Absolutely, every single, highly violently slammed completely in front, entirely of her heavy door, miraculously became highly absolute. Motivation, entirely, to completely, violently, kick completely, down exactly 10, completely, others. Absolutely, every single, highly exhausting sleepless night, completely, miraculously, converted, completely into absolutely even, exactly 1. Significantly more highly successfully delivered massive project. She highly miraculously rebuilt completely herself. Highly careful brick completely. By highly careful brick. Exactly. Exactly. Like exactly. Those highly exact, same specific massive buildings, exactly which she highly brilliantly designed. Leo was officially her highly absolute main masterpiece. Significantly more highly important than absolutely any highly massive building. Significantly more highly valuable than absolutely any highly prestigious award. When he safely returned completely from the highly busy school and violently ran entirely to highly tightly hug her. Absolutely everything. Completely else. Completely. Violently lost. Highly absolute meaning. When he highly beautifully drew a highly small, cozy house and highly lovingly said, "Exactly this is officially entirely for you, loving mama." Her fragile heart completely, violently overflowed completely with highly pure happiness. Her absolute deepest highly pure desire was incredibly simple and incredibly complex, completely, 100% simultaneously. She highly fiercely wanted, exactly, so exactly, that Leo would beautifully grow completely up completely with the highly profound understanding entirely of exactly the highly absolute fact, exactly that highly triumphantly. Winning is highly possibly possible, completely with highly pure dignity. That perfectly there, absolutely is no highly pathetic need. Entirely to confidently walk completely over highly human heads. Entirely to highly proudly rise. That highly pure kindness, absolutely, is not a highly fatal weakness, and entirely and highly strict secret. She highly passionately dreamed exactly that, exactly one highly beautiful day, when Leo absolutely will miraculously become a true adult, and absolutely will explicitly know the absolute entire, absolute truth. He absolutely will highly proudly be proud, entirely of exactly what? Exactly a highly devoted mother, perfectly at him officially is. Absolutely not entirely due, completely to her highly brilliant, massive career, but entirely due, completely, to the highly brave choices exactly which she had highly bravely made. Entirely due, completely, to exactly the highly absolute fact, exactly that she highly bravely chose highly. Pure love, completely instead, entirely of highly bitter resentment. And exactly now, having highly miraculously built absolutely all. Exactly this completely, 100%, alone. Time completely after precious time, highly proudly proving her absolute own, highly absolute value. Anna highly shockingly found, completely herself, perfectly, on the highly sharp brink, entirely of a highly explosive discovery. Her highly toxic past and her highly bright present completely, violently rushed directly toward absolutely each other, perfectly on highly lethal breakneck speed. Interactive question. Anna rebuilt her life from nothing and became an award-winning architect. How satisfying is it to see her succeed without Maxim? Tell us below. Part 4. The inevitable collision. The highly exclusive invitation confidentially arrived exactly 3 agonizing weeks completely ago. A highly elegant, expensive envelope, highly official corporate letterhead, highly expensive golden embossing, highly exclusive gala dinner, entirely in highly pure honor, entirely of highly massive corporate partnership. Anna highly meticulously read the highly famous name entirely of the highly massive hosting company. And her massive heart completely, violently skipped a highly loud beat. Vorontsov Group, the highly massive family company entirely of Maxim, completely by exactly which he exactly now highly officially directed. Her soft hands violently trembled exactly when she fiercely held exactly this highly expensive cardboard. For exactly one highly brief moment, she highly fiercely wanted to highly politely refuse, to highly creatively invent a highly plausible excuse, to highly efficiently send completely instead, entirely of completely herself, a highly polite representative. But her highly elite partner, Mark, was completely, utterly adamant. Anna, exactly this. Highly massive contract, highly easily. Costs, highly massive. Billions. Exactly. This is officially the absolute biggest, highly massive project entirely in the entire massive history, entirely of our highly elite bureau. You absolutely must, absolutely be perfectly there. They highly fiercely want to vividly see completely, 100% precisely you. After exactly this, she completely, violently, lost highly deep sleep. She intensely looked directly at the peacefully sleeping Leo and honestly did not completely know exactly what entirely to actively do. Exactly 7 agonizing years, she had highly miraculously built a highly beautiful brand new life. Exactly 7 agonizing years. Highly aggressively protected. Her biological son, completely from the highly painful, absolute truth. And exactly now, highly absolute. Fate. Highly maliciously threw her completely back, directly into. Exactly that, highly exact same specific place completely from exactly where she had frantically fled. She highly successfully found Maxim, entirely in highly popular social networks. Exactly that, exactly which she had highly rigorously avoided, absolutely all. Exactly these agonizing years. She vividly saw highly glossy photographs completely from highly exclusive secular events. He is absolutely always completely flawless, absolutely always beautifully smiling, and perfectly right, perfectly next, completely to him, miraculously, almost perfectly, on absolutely every single highly glossy snapshot. A highly elegant, flawless blonde. Margarita Soboleva. They had happily married exactly 4 agonizing years, completely ago, highly actively judging completely by the highly extensive magazine articles. The highly massive union entirely of exactly 2 highly influential, elite families. The highly perfect, flawless wife, entirely for a massive man, entirely of his highly elite status. Exactly these highly glossy photographs completely, violently stirred up highly profound feelings. Exactly which, exactly as Anna highly genuinely thought, she had a highly incredibly long, massive time completely ago, completely, permanently buried. Exactly this absolutely was not highly toxic jealousy. Absolutely not completely, exactly. This was absolutely something significantly heavier. Highly bitter, painful confirmation. Entirely of exactly the highly absolute fact, exactly that she had absolutely, never, ever, officially been the highly correct, perfect choice. That absolutely, however, incredibly much he had highly solemnly sworn, entirely, in highly pure love. In the highly absolute end, he highly cowardly chose exactly that, exactly one who highly naturally belonged completely to his highly elite social circle. Exactly that, exactly one, exactly whom highly graciously approved his highly arrogant parents. Exactly that, exactly one entirely, for exactly whom it absolutely would not be incredibly shameful. The highly complex dilemma highly agonizingly ate her completely from the absolute inside. To safely take completely with completely herself, Leo, if she highly safely takes him, Maxime absolutely will vividly see him. He absolutely will highly flawlessly recognize his absolute own, highly specific facial features, entirely in the highly innocent face, entirely of the young boy. The absolute truth absolutely will violently burst completely out, incredibly roughly, completely uncontrollably, completely without absolutely any highly careful preparation. Leo absolutely will aggressively begin entirely to highly intelligently ask highly complex questions, completely to exactly which she absolutely is not completely ready. And Maxime, exactly how absolutely will highly emotionally react he, will aggressively begin entirely to highly toxically deny highly absolute paternity, will completely, violently fall completely into highly pure rage, exactly that she highly maliciously hid absolutely everything, or exactly what is significantly worse, absolutely will highly maliciously attempt entirely to highly ruthlessly take completely away completely from her biological son, but exactly if she absolutely does not highly safely take Leo, she absolutely will highly agonizingly have entirely to highly safely leave him completely with absolutely someone. And the absolute only highly genuine person completely to exactly whom she completely 100% trusted, her loving mama, was exactly now highly severely sick. Furthermore, absolutely some highly fragile part entirely of her fragile soul highly fiercely wanted, exactly so exactly, that Maxime absolutely would vividly see absolutely everything. Highly fiercely wanted, exactly so exactly, that he absolutely would explicitly know. In the entire massive world, peacefully lives an exactly 6-year-old innocent boy. His biological son beautifully grows completely up, incredibly handsome, highly smart, and fiercely loved. Completely without him. She highly extensively discussed exactly this completely with her highly elite psychotherapist. Anna, of what exactly are you highly genuinely afraid entirely in highly absolute fact? Asked the highly respected doctor. The highly complex answer confidentially came incredibly quickly and incredibly painfully. I am completely terrified entirely to completely, anew, absolutely, be highly, publicly humiliated, completely terrified, Exactly that. He absolutely will intensely look. Completely directly, entirely at me, and completely directly, entirely at Leo, and completely. A new highly. Cowardly turn completely to us, his broad back entirely. Because exactly that highly severe. Wound completely. From the highly brutal rejection, entirely, of exactly 7-year-oldness, absolutely, still highly, painfully burns. Absolutely no matter exactly what, highly grand, massive success she had highly successfully achieved. Absolutely no matter exactly how, highly brilliantly, she had highly miraculously rebuilt her beautiful life. Exactly that, highly severe wound, highly tragically, absolutely had not completely closed completely to the highly absolute end. And exactly now, the highly terrifying thought entirely, about exactly the highly absolute fact exactly that she absolutely will be completely with him, entirely, in exactly one massive room. That she absolutely will highly agonizingly have, entirely to highly flawlessly maintain her beautiful face entirely, while he absolutely will confidently stand perfectly there, completely with his highly glamorous wife. That she absolutely will highly agonizingly have entirely to highly pathetically. Pretend exactly as if absolutely everything is completely, perfectly fine. Exactly this highly actively seemed completely unbearable. She was completely, violently torn, completely by absolutely another highly profound internal conflict. A highly fragile part, entirely, of her highly fiercely wanted. Exactly so exactly that Leo absolutely would highly proudly meet completely with his true father. Absolutely every single innocent child highly fiercely deserves exactly this highly fragile chance, she highly deeply thought. Whatever exactly Maxim had highly catastrophically done, completely with me, Leo is completely 100% innocent. He highly legally possesses the highly absolute right, entirely to highly independently decide completely himself exactly when he beautifully grows completely up. Exactly whether he highly desperately needs exactly such a true father, but highly legally possess I, the highly absolute, right entirely to highly aggressively force exactly this highly anticipated meeting. Right exactly now? Or officially is it significantly better, entirely to highly patiently? Wait completely until Leo absolutely will miraculously become exactly highly sufficiently mature, entirely to highly profoundly understand absolutely everything at pitch-black nights completely for the highly exclusive reception. Anna was highly relentlessly tormented completely by highly terrifying nightmares. She highly tragically dreamed exactly that she confidently enters directly into the highly massive hall, and absolutely everyone highly loudly laughs completely over her. That Maxim highly maliciously kicks her completely out perfectly in highly clear sight, entirely of the highly dense crowd. That Leo highly innocently asks, "Mama, why exactly is exactly this massive uncle so incredibly highly mean completely to you?" And completely to her, perfectly there absolutely is nothing entirely to actively answer. Mark highly astutely noticed her highly severe anxiety. "Are you completely perfectly fine? You visually look incredibly tense." She highly desperately squeezed completely out a highly fake smile. "Absolutely everything is completely excellent. Highly simply, highly intensely focused, completely on the highly complex project, highly toxic lie, completely inside. She was completely, violently, crumbling completely into highly tiny pieces. But she absolutely could not, highly possibly, proudly show exactly this. Absolutely could not, highly logically explain exactly that the highly powerful owner, entirely of the massive company, completely with exactly which they are highly actively going, entirely to highly successfully conclude the highly massive deal, entirely of the absolute entire beautiful life, is officially exactly that highly exact same specific monster who had highly ruthlessly trampled her agonizing years completely ago. Exactly 3 agonizing days completely. Before the highly exclusive reception, Leo highly innocently asked exactly where they absolutely will confidently go. To a highly beautiful, massive holiday, my beautiful love, completely with incredibly important elite people. He completely livened completely up. Can I highly possibly highly happily put completely on my highly cool suit? Anna beautifully smiled, exactly although her massive heart completely, violently clenched. Absolutely, of course you highly possibly can. You absolutely will be the absolute most highly handsome. She highly expensively bought a highly beautiful brand new dress, highly dark blue, incredibly elegant, and highly domineering. Confidently went directly to the highly elite salon, highly flawlessly did, highly expensive manicure, highly perfect styling, highly flawless makeup. She highly proudly dressed completely into exactly, like, completely, into highly impenetrable knight's armor. Absolutely every single, highly beautiful detail was officially highly absolute protection. Absolutely every single, highly expensive accessory, a highly impenetrable shield. She absolutely will confidently enter directly into exactly this highly massive hall. Absolutely not exactly as the highly abandoned, pathetic girl completely from the highly toxic past, but exactly as the highly successful, brilliant architect, exactly whom she had highly miraculously become. In the highly bright morning entirely, in the highly anticipated day. Entirely of the highly exclusive reception, she intensely looked completely directly entirely into the massive mirror. The beautiful woman, intensely looking completely directly entirely at her, completely and highly polite answer, was incredibly strong, completely unyielding, but completely behind the highly thick layer entirely of highly expensive makeup, absolutely, still, highly, stealthily. Blinding fear, exactly that she highly possibly might completely, violently turn completely out, entirely to absolutely, be absolutely not highly, sufficiently, strong. That she absolutely will, completely, violently, break, literally, barely, highly, clearly, vividly, seeing him. That Leo absolutely will highly astutely understand. Exactly, that absolutely. Something is completely wrong. She took a massive, incredibly deep breath. You absolutely will highly successfully handle exactly this. Exactly this is highly simply absolutely just another highly boring business meeting. But exactly when they confidently entered directly into the highly grand ballroom, and she vividly saw Maxime perfectly on the absolute other, highly distant end, entirely of the highly massive room. when their piercing eyes completely, violently, met entirely, for the absolute, first, highly terrifying time, entirely, in exactly 7 agonizing years. Anna completely, profoundly understood exactly that she was highly cruelly, catastrophically wrong. Exactly. This absolutely was not highly simply a highly boring business meeting. Exactly this was officially highly absolute reckoning. Exactly which, highly meticulously prepared highly absolute. Fate, completely itself. Interactive question. Anna is walking into the lion's den with her son. How do you think Maxim is going to react when he realizes Leo is his child? Tell us below. Part 5. Exposing the lie. Anna highly frantically attempted entirely to confidently leave, but Maxime confidently stepped completely forward, highly imperceptibly blocking completely to her the highly safe way entirely so exactly that the completely other elite guests absolutely would not highly astutely notice absolutely anything. Anya, please, highly simply exactly 1 short minute. His deep voice was incredibly low, highly urgent. She highly stubbornly fixed her piercing gaze absolutely somewhere completely over his broad shoulder. She absolutely would not highly generously give him the highly pathetic pleasure entirely to vividly see her highly emotional reaction. Absolutely not completely. After exactly 7 agonizing years, absolutely not completely after absolutely everything exactly that highly tragically was. To us perfectly, there absolutely is nothing. Entirely about exactly which entirely to actively talk. Perfectly there absolutely is entirely about exactly which. I highly desperately need entirely to highly logically explain absolutely everything. Exactly 7 agonizing years, she violently cut completely off, completely with a highly freezing ice tone. For exactly 7 agonizing years, you absolutely could not highly possibly successfully find the highly secure phone. Absolutely could not highly possibly successfully send a highly simple message. Absolutely could not highly possibly highly loudly knock completely into my heavy door. And exactly now, exactly when I confidently enter perfectly here, to you highly suddenly, highly desperately, became highly strictly necessary entirely to actively talk. Leo highly gently tugged his loving mama perfectly by the soft hand. He highly astutely felt the highly massive tension entirely in the heavy air. Absolutely, even absolutely not completely, 100%, understanding its highly complex reason. Maxime intensely looked completely directly entirely at the young boy. His piercing eyes completely, violently widened. The highly flawless resemblance was completely absolute, incredibly terrifying. The highly precise oval entirely of the highly innocent face. The highly exact color entirely of the piercing eyes. The highly exact line entirely of the small nose. It was exactly like intensely looking, completely directly entirely at his absolute own highly precious childhood photograph. The deep voice entirely of Maxim, completely, violently broke. Exactly this absolutely is not your highly pathetic business. Anna highly passionately pulled Leo directly to completely herself, highly protectively. Anya, highly desperately. Wait! I completely know exactly that I highly catastrophically screwed completely up. I completely know exactly that I was officially a highly pathetic coward. But you absolutely do not highly profoundly understand. Absolutely everything was so incredibly, highly complicated. My highly arrogant parents. Complicated. Her beautiful voice incredibly slightly violently rose. Highly several elite guests perfectly nearby, highly discreetly, turned their delicate heads. To you, it was incredibly complicated, entirely to highly ruthlessly abandon me, heavily pregnant, and completely alone? Was it incredibly complicated entirely, to completely, violently disappear, completely, without highly logical explanations? Which exactly highly specific part was incredibly complicated, Maxim? Exactly that. Exactly where you highly cowardly chose your highly comfortable comfort? Or exactly that, exactly where you highly ruthlessly renounced completely from your absolute own biological son? The absolute last heavy word, highly. Loudly echoed. Exactly 3 highly elite couples perfectly. Nearby completely, violently silenced. Delicate heads completely violently turned. Maxime, completely, violently, turned completely, pale. He highly frantically looked completely around, highly profoundly comprehending. Exactly that perfectly at them had highly suddenly appeared highly attentive spectators. Absolutely do not actively speak exactly like exactly this. Highly genuine people absolutely will highly clearly hear. Oh, exactly now. You are incredibly worried entirely about exactly what highly genuine people absolutely will highly clearly hear. Anna profoundly felt exactly how completely, outwardly violently bursts the highly pure rage, highly painstakingly accumulated, entirely for exactly 7 agonizing years. When you highly ruthlessly abandoned me, you absolutely did not highly toxically worry entirely about exactly what I absolutely will, highly agonizingly pass completely through, and exactly what highly genuine people absolutely will actively say entirely about me. Exactly that highly explosive moment confidentially appeared Margarita. She highly smoothly emerged completely from perfectly behind the broad back. Entirely of Maxim. Completely. With a highly beautiful smile. Exactly that. Absolutely did not. Highly beautifully. Touch her piercing eyes. She visually looked completely dazzling, entirely in a highly expensive red designer dress. Highly expensive diamonds, brilliantly sparkled, completely under the bright light entirely of the highly expensive crystal chandeliers. But entirely in her beautiful face, perfectly, there was absolutely something incredibly hard. Miraculously almost highly predatory. My beautiful darling, who exactly officially is your highly beautiful girlfriend? The highly polite tone was incredibly sugary sweet, but completely, 100% soaked completely with highly lethal poison. Maxime smoothly opened his handsome mouth, but absolutely did not loudly emit absolutely audible sound. Margarita highly meticulously measured Anna completely with a highly evaluating, calculating, piercing gaze. Then her piercing eyes completely, violently, fell perfectly on Leo, and the beautiful expression perfectly on her beautiful face, highly, immediately, completely, violently changed. Violently. She beautifully tilted her delicate head completely to the soft side, which highly explicitly means exactly that you are officially exactly that, exactly one. Anna highly proudly tossed completely up her delicate chin. What exactly significantly more exactly that, exactly one? Exactly that. Highly exact same, specific, pathetic wench who highly maliciously attempted entirely to highly toxically catch my highly devoted husband directly into a highly toxic trap, completely with a highly fake invented pregnancy. Margarita beautifully smiled. But exactly this was officially a highly cruel, toxic smile. Maxim explicitly told me absolutely everything entirely about you. About exactly how you confidently showed completely up directly to him, highly loudly screaming exactly that you are heavily pregnant, entirely, so exactly as entirely, to highly aggressively. Force him entirely to happily marry, perfectly on you, but perfectly at him, highly successfully. Sufficed, highly. Brilliant mind, absolutely not entirely to highly blindly. Buy completely onto exactly this highly cheap, pathetic trick. In Anna, the hot blood completely violently boiled. Completely around them, completely increasingly significantly. More highly genuine people completely stopped, entirely to highly intently, watch. Highly aggressively began. Highly quiet whispers, a highly cheap trick. Anna took a massive, incredibly deep breath. Highly frantically, actively attempting entirely to highly successfully maintain highly absolute self-control. And exactly this is officially exactly what he highly honestly explicitly told you, and absolutely isn't exactly this the absolute truth. Margarita fiercely crossed her fragile arms perfectly on her fragile chest. You are absolutely not the absolute first, and absolutely not the absolute last, who highly maliciously attempts entirely to highly successfully cash completely and perfectly on a highly wealthy, rich man. Leo, significantly tighter, fiercely clutched the soft hand entirely of his loving mama. He highly astutely felt exactly that absolutely something was completely wrong. Absolutely something incredibly bad. Anna intensely looked completely directly entirely at Maxim, highly purely hoping exactly that he absolutely would, highly bravely say, absolutely, at least absolutely something. That he absolutely would, highly miraculously, fix exactly this highly pathetic, toxic lie. That he absolutely would, highly bravely protect the absolute truth. But he highly, simply, highly cowardly averted his piercing gaze. His handsome face confidentially went completely in highly bright, red spots. His highly deafening silence, highly maliciously hurt. Significantly stronger than the highly lethal poison entirely of Margarita. Maxim. The beautiful voice entirely of Anna, entirely for the absolute first time, violently trembled. You absolutely will, highly simply, exactly, like exactly this, confidently stand, and highly cowardly, keep completely silent, highly generously permit her entirely to actively say exactly such highly toxic things. He smoothly opened his handsome mouth, completely closed. Smoothly opened, completely. Anew. Rita. Absolutely everything was absolutely not completely, 100% exactly so. Absolutely not completely, 100% exactly. So? Margarita laughed loudly. A highly sharp, cutting laugh exactly that highly successfully made highly many, completely violently, turn their delicate heads entirely in their highly direct direction. Which highly explicitly means exactly that you highly fiercely want to explicitly say exactly that. She highly, truly, genuinely, absolutely was heavily pregnant. That exactly this highly innocent boy is officially yours. In the highly grand ballroom completely, violently, reigned highly. Dead. deafening silence. Absolutely, even the highly romantic background music highly actively seemed entirely to have completely, violently quieted completely down. Exactly now, the absolute entire highly intense attention was completely, violently glued, absolutely, only completely, to them. I honestly do not completely know. I highly desperately need a highly strict DNA test completely before a highly strict DNA test. Anna profoundly felt exactly how directly to her piercing eyes highly violently approached hot tears. But she absolutely was not actively going entirely to violently cry. Absolutely, only absolutely, not perfectly in front, entirely, of them. You intensely looked completely directly entirely at him, Maxim. You intensely looked completely directly entirely into the highly innocent face entirely of your absolute own biological son. And perfectly at you, highly successfully, suffices the highly toxic conscience entirely to highly skeptically doubt. A highly sweet older lady perfectly nearby softly murmured completely to her highly polite companion. What an absolute scandal! The highly poor girl. What exactly highly poor girl? Replied the exact one. Exactly these highly pathetic wenches absolutely always, highly maliciously attempt entirely to highly successfully scam highly wealthy rich men. Margarita highly clearly heard exactly this, and highly satisfiedly, beautifully smiled. You highly clearly vividly see, absolutely everyone, highly perfectly, flawlessly understands exactly who you highly truly, genuinely, officially are. A highly common, pathetic scammer. I highly proudly bet exactly that you absolutely, even completely yourself absolutely, are not completely sure exactly who the true father officially is. Anna profoundly felt completely herself, exactly, as if to her highly brutally gave a highly physical slap. The heavy words absolutely were exactly like highly sharp knives. Completely around, completely herself, she vividly saw highly judgmental, piercing gazes. Absolutely, some completely, with highly pathetic pity. Completely others, completely, with highly pure disdain. Highly thirds, completely, with highly unhealthy, pure curiosity. Mama! Leo highly gently tugged her perfectly by the highly beautiful dress. Entirely in his piercing eyes, safely stood hot tears. Why exactly is exactly this massive ant so incredibly, highly mean completely to you? Absolutely everything is completely perfectly fine, my beautiful love. Highly certain, specific yeeple highly, simply highly, maliciously happen. Entirely to absolutely be incredibly mean, completely without absolutely any highly logical reason. But I absolutely did not highly tragically do absolutely anything incredibly bad. I completely know, my beautiful baby. I completely know. When she confidently straightened completely up, in her piercing eyes confidentially appeared absolutely something completely, 100% different. Exactly these absolutely were no longer hot tears. Exactly this was officially highly freezing, absolute resolution. Margarita aggressively continued. If you highly, truly, genuinely, highly, toxically think exactly that, exactly this young boy is officially the biological son entirely of Maxim. You absolutely should have highly legally sued completely in highly strict court. Highly aggressively demanded highly massive child support. But you absolutely did not highly bravely do exactly this? Absolutely didn't you? Because you highly perfectly, flawlessly know exactly that you successfully possess absolutely zero highly undeniable evidence. I absolutely did not highly desperately need his highly dirty money, incredibly slowly, highly meticulously pronouncing absolutely every single heavy word, stated Anna. Absolutely never, ever. Well, absolutely, of course. Margarita highly arrogantly rolled her piercing eyes. Completely, 100% precisely exactly. Therefore, you highly pathetically dragged completely yourself directly to exactly this highly exclusive party. Entirely, to completely, anew, highly pathetically. Attempt entirely to highly miraculously. Get significantly closer completely to him, a highly pathetic, miserable sight. Here, finally, highly bravely gave his deep voice Maxime. Rita, highly aggressively stop. You are completely, violently, bending the highly fragile stick. I am highly aggressively protecting my beautiful marriage. She highly abruptly, smoothly turned directly toward him. Or do you highly fiercely want entirely so? Exactly that. Exactly this highly pathetic woman absolutely would confidently appear, completely out, entirely of absolute nowhere, completely with exactly this innocent child, and completely, violently destroy absolutely everything. Exactly that we highly miraculously built. To the highly tense group confidently approached a massive man, entirely in a highly strict, dark gray bespoke suit. It was officially Mr. Anatoly Frolov, a highly respected, old loyal friend, entirely of the highly elite Vorontsov family. He intensely looked completely directly entirely at Leo, then completely directly entirely at Maxim, then completely, anew, completely, directly entirely at Leo. Maxim, exactly this innocent boy, the highly exact, flawless, spitting image entirely of you, entirely in his highly young age. Margarita, entirely in highly pure fury, smoothly turned directly toward him. Absolutely do not highly arrogantly interfere. I am highly simply, highly honestly, stating a highly absolute fact. Mr. Frolov highly casually shrugged his broad shoulders. Absolutely any highly normal person, completely with piercing eyes, highly possibly can, highly clearly, vividly, see exactly this. Completely other elite guests aggressively began, entirely to incredibly quietly agree. The highly toxic comments highly rapidly spread, exactly like a highly wild forest fire. He is highly, truly, genuinely, incredibly similar, completely to him. The highly exact same specific mouth, the highly exact same specific piercing eyes. Margarita completely, profoundly understood exactly that she is completely, violently, losing highly absolute control completely over the highly explosive situation. She smoothly turned directly toward Anna, and entirely in her piercing eyes, violently blazed highly pure, unadulterated hatred. You highly meticulously planned exactly this? To highly arrogantly appear, perfectly, here exactly today, completely with him, entirely to highly maliciously orchestrate a highly explosive scandal? Anna intensely looked completely directly entirely at her, absolutely not, violently blinking. I absolutely did not completely know exactly that Maxime absolutely would be perfectly here. And absolutely even exactly if I highly profoundly knew. I absolutely do not highly desperately need your highly pathetic permission, entirely, to highly peacefully exist. Maxim! Highly bravely do absolutely at least absolutely something! Highly aggressively demanded Margarita. Highly violently throw exactly this highly pathetic woman completely out, completely from perfectly here. Absolutely all piercing gazes completely, violently turned completely to him, entirely in highly anxious expectation. In highly anxious expectation entirely of exactly what he absolutely will highly actively do. Will he highly bravely stand completely on the highly toxic side, entirely of his highly glamorous wife? Or absolutely will finally highly bravely do exactly what is completely 100% right? Maxim smoothly opened his handsome mouth entirely to highly bravely. Say absolutely. At least absolutely something. But completely before he highly successfully managed entirely to highly weakly pronounced absolutely even exactly one single heavy word. The heavy air completely, violently cut a highly deep, authoritative deep voice. Interactive question. Margarita just humiliated Anna in front of everyone. How do you think the mystery man is going to turn the tables? Drop your thoughts below. Part 6. The Architect's Shield. Dr. Volkova. Anna smoothly turned completely around. Directly to them, confidently approached a highly tall, silver-haired massive man, entirely in a completely flawless bespoke suit. On his handsome face, beautifully played a highly sincere, beautiful smile. And entirely in his piercing eyes was officially exactly that, exactly which she highly flawlessly recognized completely, instantly. Highly absolute respect. He highly smoothly extended, completely to her, his strong hand. And entirely and exactly, this highly simple, beautiful gesture, absolutely, everything aggressively began entirely to completely, violently change. Dr. Volkova, repeated the massive man, highly smoothly extending his strong hand completely with a highly warm, beautiful smile. Anna rapidly blinked, highly frantically actively attempting entirely to highly logically process the highly sudden, massive change. She highly flawlessly recognized exactly this handsome face. The highly famous CEO entirely of Vorontsov Holding. The highly powerful boss entirely of Maxim. The exact massive man who highly proudly managed a highly multi-billion-dollar real estate empire. Mr. Frolov. She highly firmly shook his strong hand, highly frantically actively attempting entirely to highly miraculously return to completely herself. Her highly flawless composure, her beautiful voice absolutely, still incredibly slightly violently trembled. Finally, he highly sincerely, beautifully smiled. I have absolutely been highly frantically searching entirely for you completely from the absolute very beginning entirely of the highly beautiful evening. You absolutely are not so incredibly easily highly successfully found. Margarita highly confusedly frowned. She intensely translated her highly uncomprehending piercing gaze completely from Anna, completely directly, entirely to Frolov. Maxim completely, violently, turned completely. Pale exactly, like a highly blank white canvas. Do you intimately know her? Asked Margarita. Her beautiful voice highly tragically lost the highly lion's share entirely of its highly former toxic arrogance. Frolov smoothly turned directly toward her. Exactly as if absolutely, only right exactly now, highly astutely noticing her highly quiet presence. Do I intimately know her? Margarita, exactly. This is officially Dr. Anna Volkova. The absolute most highly brilliant elite architect entirely of the highly brand new generation. He completely anew, highly respectfully directed his highly intense attention completely to Anna. Your highly brilliant projects are completely revolutionary. Exactly that highly eco-friendly residential complex, Southern Valley, highly proudly received exactly 3 highly prestigious international awards. I have highly meticulously read absolutely all the highly prestigious articles entirely about your highly brilliant work. The highly heavy silence exactly that seamlessly followed completely after exactly this was completely, utterly deafening. Completely around them completely, violently ceased the highly quiet whispers. Highly genuine people aggressively began entirely to confidently approach significantly closer. Highly deeply intrigued. Anna profoundly felt exactly how Leo completely anew, highly tightly squeezed her soft hand. But exactly this highly specific time, exactly this absolutely was not blinding fear. Exactly this was officially highly pure curiosity. I highly profoundly thank you, Mr. Frolov. For me exactly, this is officially a highly massive honor, replied Anna. And her beautiful voice loudly sounded completely 100% neutral, completely professional, and incredibly cold, exactly like freezing ice, exactly. This is officially a highly massive honor entirely for me. Frolov highly expansively swept completely with his strong hand the highly massive hall. Completely, 100%. Precisely exactly. Therefore, I so incredibly, highly stubbornly insisted exactly that you absolutely would confidently come exactly today. We highly desperately need entirely to highly seriously discuss the highly massive project entirely of the highly anticipated brand new commercial center. Your highly elite bureau highly officially submitted a highly brilliant proposal entirely due completely to exactly which I highly literally, completely, violently lost highly deep sleep. So incredibly, highly impressive, exactly, it officially is. Maxime heavily swallowed incredibly hard. His piercing eyes completely, violently, rounded completely from highly absolute terror. He completely, 100%, precisely profoundly, knew entirely about exactly which highly massive project completely goes the highly complex speech. The absolute biggest, highly massive project entirely, in the entire massive history entirely of their highly elite company. A highly massive investment entirely. In exactly 50 billion rubles, or dollars. If the highly massive project highly successfully succeeds, it absolutely will miraculously become the highly absolute legacy entirely of the highly elite Vorontsov family. If it completely, violently fails, it absolutely will be a highly complete, catastrophic ruin. The highly massive project is miraculously, almost completely, 100% completed, replied Anna. Completely, flawlessly. Returning completely to completely herself, her highly strict professional mask. Exactly as if the absolute last, exactly 15 agonizing minutes, highly, simply, completely, 100%, absolutely, did not highly actively exist. My highly elite team brutally worked completely over exactly 6 agonizing months. Exactly 6 agonizing months entirely of highly exceptional, brilliant work. beautifully smiled Frolov. Maxim, you absolutely did not, highly honestly, explicitly tell me exactly that you absolutely are intimately acquainted completely with Dr. Volkova, highly personally. Maxim smoothly opened his handsome mouth. Completely closed. Highly frantically attempted, entirely to highly bravely. Say absolutely, at least absolutely, something. But absolutely could not highly possibly. Highly weakly, squeeze completely out. Absolutely, even exactly one single, highly audible sound. We absolutely were intimately acquainted, a highly incredibly long, massive time, completely Agana replied completely for him. Anna. Absolutely still, completely with exactly that, highly exact same, highly even, completely lifeless, beautiful tone. Frolov absolutely did not highly astutely notice the highly massive tension. Or, exactly if he highly astutely did, highly diplomatically, highly politely ignored exactly it. What an absolutely wonderful, beautiful coincidence, which highly explicitly means exactly that you absolutely will be highly successfully capable entirely to highly seriously discuss the highly complex details entirely of the highly massive project entirely in a significantly more highly informal, comfortable atmosphere. The highly massive project? Violently intervened Margarita. What exactly highly massive project? The highly anticipated integrated commercial center, highly excitedly explained Frolov. Exactly this absolutely will be the absolute most highly massive, ambitious facility entirely in the entire massive city. Highly advanced offices, highly exclusive 5-star hotels, a highly massive conference center entirely for exactly 1,000 elite people. And absolutely all exactly this, entirely in exactly one single, highly unified, eco-friendly complex. Dr. Volkova is officially the highly absolute chief architect. She and the highly elite architectural bureau, Horizon, absolutely will miraculously become our highly absolute general partners. Margarita intensely looked completely directly entirely at Anna. Exactly as if she vividly saw her entirely, for the absolute first time, entirely in her entire massive life. The highly toxic arrogance aggressively began, entirely to highly rapidly yield, highly safe way. Completely to absolutely. Something completely, 100% different. Highly massive uncertainty and highly absolute panic. And Maxim is officially the highly proud director, entirely of exactly this highly massive project, completely from the highly official side entirely of our highly elite company, aggressively continued Frolov. Highly ruthlessly finishing them completely, 100% off completely, 100%. Finally. The highly intensive following exactly 2 agonizing years, he absolutely will brutally work completely directly completely with you, Dr. Volkova. Exactly 2 agonizing years. Highly loudly echoed Anna. Highly flawlessly, maintaining her beautiful face completely, utterly impassive. And completely inside, absolutely everything, completely, violently, turned completely, upside down. Brutally working completely with Maxim is completely, utterly, unthinkable. Yes, exactly. This is officially a highly long-term, massive project. You absolutely will vividly see absolutely each other incredibly, highly frequently, laughed loudly Frolov. Completely, 100% unaware entirely about the highly tangible, massive discomfort. In highly absolute fact, I was highly actively thinking entirely about exactly the highly absolute fact, entirely to highly politely ask you entirely to highly proudly present the highly main, brilliant concepts completely to our highly elite investors right exactly today. They absolutely are absolutely all perfectly here. Exactly this absolutely would be the highly perfect, flawless moment. Exactly today? Anna violently hesitated. I absolutely did not highly safely take completely with completely myself the highly complex materials. Absolutely everything is completely 100% ready. Frolov fiercely nodded completely to the confidently. Standing perfectly. Right perfectly. Next completely. To him highly elite assistant. We highly politely asked your highly elite team entirely to highly urgently send the highly complex files exactly yesterday. They absolutely are, absolutely already, highly successfully loaded, entirely for highly massive projection. Exactly this absolutely will highly safely take absolutely only exactly 15 short minutes. But I absolutely will highly profoundly understand exactly if you highly strongly prefer, absolutely not entirely, to actively do exactly this. I absolutely will highly bravely do exactly it. The heavy words violently escaped completely from the handsome lips entirely of Anna. Completely before she highly successfully managed entirely to highly deeply think. Absolutely something completely inside her, highly bravely made a highly final, absolute decision. She absolutely will not frantically run completely away. She absolutely will not highly pathetically show highly pathetic weakness. If they highly fiercely want to vividly see exactly how she highly proudly performs, she absolutely will highly proudly perform. And she absolutely will highly proudly show completely to absolutely everyone. Highly officially present exactly who she highly truly, genuinely officially is. Frolov highly joyously loudly clapped completely in his strong hands. Completely perfect. I absolutely will highly successfully gather the highly elite investors. We highly possibly can highly bravely start entirely in exactly 10 short minutes. Exactly 10 short minutes is completely 100% enough. He confidently stepped completely away. Highly efficiently, convening highly genuine people. Anna safely remained confidently standing. Highly painstakingly digesting exactly what had literally just completely, violently happened. She intensely looked completely directly entirely at Maxim. He was significantly whiter than highly white chalk. Margarita visually looked exactly as if her completely, violently struck completely with highly massive electricity. The highly elite guests completely around, completely anew aggressively, began entirely to incredibly quietly whisper. But exactly now, the highly polite tone was completely 100% different. She is officially the highly absolute architect entirely of exactly this highly massive project. Exactly that, highly exact, same specific Anna Volkova perfectly at exactly whom perfectly. There absolutely are highly prestigious international awards. Absolute God. She is so incredibly highly young. I highly genuinely thought exactly that she is officially exactly 50 highly successful years old. Mr. Frolov. Exactly that highly exact same specific investor who had highly bravely protected Anna significantly earlier, confidently approached, significantly closer. Dr. Volkova, I am officially exactly one entirely of the highly elite investors entirely of exactly this highly massive project. Completely with highly massive impatience, I highly anxiously expect your highly brilliant presentation. I highly profoundly thank you, Mr. Frolov. Anna highly desperately squeezed completely out a highly professional smile. He intensely looked completely directly entirely at Leo. Then, completely directly entirely at Maxim. Then, completely. Anew, completely, directly entirely at Anna. In his piercing eyes was officially highly complete, profound understanding. But he absolutely did not explicitly say absolutely nothing. Highly simply, highly respectfully, fiercely nodded, and confidently stepped completely away. A highly sweet older lady. Exactly that, highly exact. Same specific one who had highly toxically judged Anna. A highly few short agonizing minutes completely ago, highly timidly confidently approached. I highly profusely apologize. Are you highly truly, genuinely the highly absolute architect, entirely of the highly advanced eco-complex Southern Valley? My loving daughter peacefully lives perfectly there. It is highly simply completely, utterly beautiful. Anna took a massive, incredibly deep breath. Yes, madam. Exactly this was officially exactly one entirely of my absolute first, highly massive, complex projects. Exactly this is completely astounding. Thank you so incredibly much entirely for your highly brilliant work. The highly sweet lady beautifully smiled and highly smoothly retired, confidently approached absolutely another massive man. Then absolutely another, exactly one. In a highly few short agonizing minutes, Anna, highly shockingly found. Completely herself, perfectly in a highly dense, massive ring. Entirely of highly interested, elite people who highly aggressively showered her completely with highly intelligent questions, entirely about highly complex architecture, highly advanced urbanism, and her highly brilliant future projects. Margarita highly intently watched completely after absolutely all. Exactly this, completely with a completely violently open soft mouth. Maxim absolutely did not actively move. He highly actively seemed exactly as if he had completely, violently rooted completely to the hard floor. Leo highly gently tugged his loving mama perfectly by the highly beautiful dress. Mama, are you highly truly, genuinely, highly famous? Anna completely anew gracefully sank directly to his highly precise level. Exactly this highly specific time, completely with a highly sincere, warm, beautiful smile, perfectly on her handsome lips. No, my beautiful love. Highly simply, I brutally work incredibly much. Sometimes, exactly when we highly bravely do our highly demanding work incredibly well. Highly genuine people, highly astutely notice exactly this. She highly tenderly kissed him perfectly on the highly violently burning forehead. Do you highly fiercely want highly delicious juice? Entirely while loving mama absolutely will highly proudly perform. And can I highly possibly highly happily have highly delicious soda? You highly possibly can. She loudly laughed, completely with a highly genuine, ringing, pure laugh completely from exactly which a highly tiny bit, highly miraculously relieved completely from her fragile chest. confidently approached a highly polite waiter, completely with a highly expensive tray. Leo highly joyously, highly aggressively grabbed a highly expensive glass, completely with highly sweet soda. Anna confidently straightened completely up, highly neatly adjusted her highly beautiful dress, highly meticulously corrected her beautiful hair. In a highly few short agonizing minutes, she absolutely will confidently exit completely onto exactly this massive stage perfectly in front, entirely of absolutely everyone who had highly toxically judged her. Perfectly in front entirely of Maxim. Perfectly in front entirely of Margarita. And she absolutely will highly proudly show completely to absolutely all entirely of them exactly who officially is Anna Volkova. Absolutely not exactly that highly abandoned, pathetic girl, completely from the highly toxic past, but the highly powerful, brilliant woman who had highly miraculously forged completely herself, completely anew. Safely returned Frolov Sr., entirely in the highly elite accompaniment, entirely of a highly elite group, entirely of highly elite top managers. We are completely ready exactly when you are completely ready. Anna intensely looked completely directly entirely at the massive stage, highly securely installed perfectly in the absolute center entirely of the highly grand hall. The bright lights, the highly advanced projector, the highly active microphone. Her massive heart violently beat exactly like completely crazy. But exactly this was absolutely no longer blinding fear. Exactly this was highly pure, absolute power. I'm completely ready, and confidently walking directly to the massive stage, fiercely holding Leo completely by the soft hand. Anna profoundly knew. Right exactly now, absolutely will, completely, violently, happen. Absolutely. Something incredibly monumental. Interactive question. Anna is about to present her massive project to the entire room, including Maxim and Margarita. Will she crush it? Drop your fierce thoughts below. Part 7. The presentation of triumph. Anna confidently ascended completely by exactly 3 highly steep steps, completely onto the massive stage. Her highly expensive heels highly confidently loudly knocked completely against the highly polished marble. Leo safely sat entirely in the absolute first front row, intensely looking completely directly entirely at his loving mama completely with piercing eyes, brilliantly shining, completely from highly pure admiration. The highly efficient assistant highly meticulously adjusted the highly active microphone completely under her highly specific height. The bright lights entirely in the highly grand ballroom absolutely were highly beautifully dimmed. The highly enormous advanced screen completely behind her broad back completely, violently flashed. Confidentially appeared the absolute first highly clear image. A highly advanced 3D render entirely of a completely, utterly impressive architectural complex. Highly modern, sleek lines. Highly reflective mirrored glazing. Highly beautifully integrated vertical gardens. Anna confidently took the highly active microphone. She highly smoothly swept completely with her piercing gaze the highly attentive audience. At her intensely looked significantly more than exactly 200 entirely of the absolute most highly influential elite people entirely in the entire massive city. Maxime confidently stood entirely in the highly deep depth, entirely of the highly massive hall, fiercely crossing his strong arms perfectly on his broad chest, completely with a handsome face, completely, violently, tensed completely to the highly absolute limit. Margarita confidently stood perfectly. Right. Perfectly. Next. Completely. To him. Absolutely. Still, highly frantically, actively attempting entirely to highly logically digest. Absolutely everything highly actively happening. Highly beautiful. Good evening. Her beautiful voice loudly sounded incredibly confident and highly powerful. My highly beautiful name is officially Anna Volkova. I am officially the highly absolute chief architect entirely of the highly elite architectural bureau, Horizon. Exactly. Today I absolutely will highly proudly present completely to you the highly brilliant concept entirely of the highly anticipated integrated commercial center, Vorontsov. She highly smoothly switched the highly advanced slide. A highly breathtaking bird's-eye view entirely of the highly massive construction site. Exactly. This highly massive project highly beautifully was born, completely from a highly simple, profound question. Exactly how highly possibly can we highly miraculously create a highly commercial space? Exactly. That absolutely does not. Highly, simply highly annoyingly. Occupy highly precious space entirely in the massive city, but highly actively, highly beautifully enriches exactly it? Loudly, clicked. Highly expensive pens. Highly genuine. People aggressively began entirely to highly meticulously make highly complex notes. The absolute entire highly intense attention was completely, 100% glued absolutely only completely to her. The highly massive area entirely of the highly expensive plot highly officially constitutes exactly 50,000 square meters. Our highly brilliant proposal is entirely to highly seamlessly divide the highly massive space completely into exactly 3 highly interconnected massive towers. The absolute first massive tower absolutely will be highly proudly dedicated, completely under highly advanced corporate offices. Exactly 30 massive floors, highly cutting-edge advanced technologies, highly smart climate control systems, highly efficiently reducing highly massive energy consumption, completely by exactly 40%. She highly proudly showed highly stunning interiors, highly spacious, beautiful premises, highly natural, bright lighting, highly green, beautiful common areas. The exactly second massive tower absolutely will highly beautifully accommodate a highly exclusive 5-star hotel entirely on exactly 200 luxury rooms, a highly massive conference center entirely for exactly 1,000 elite people, and highly breathtaking panoramic restaurants. But the highly absolute, main massive difference, highly specifically, lies entirely in the highly seamless integration. She highly smoothly turned completely on a highly advanced animation, highly flawlessly showing exactly how the exactly 3 massive towers highly beautifully connect completely with highly breathtaking suspended glass walkways, completely with highly beautiful gardens. The massive towers absolutely will be highly seamlessly connected, absolutely, not entirely, only highly physically, but absolutely also highly ecologically. We have highly miraculously created a highly advanced system entirely for the highly efficient collection entirely of highly pure rainwater, exactly that highly efficiently provides the absolute entire highly massive complex. Highly advanced solar panels, highly seamlessly integrated, completely into the highly beautiful facade, highly efficiently. Generate exactly 30% entirely of the highly consumed energy. and perfectly on absolutely every single massive floor. Perfectly there. Absolutely will be highly beautiful. Vertical gardens. Highly efficiently working exactly as highly natural, pure air filters. Exactly one. Entirely of the highly elite investors, highly politely raised his strong hand. How exactly incredibly strongly does exactly this highly aggressively increase the highly massive cost entirely of the highly massive project? Highly initially approximately exactly on 15%, completely without violently blinking exactly one single piercing eye, highly confidently, replied Anna. But the highly massive payback confidently comes absolutely already, exactly through 5 agonizing years, completely at the highly absolute expense, entirely of highly colossal, massive savings, perfectly on highly expensive electricity and highly essential water supply. Completely after. Exactly this is officially highly pure, unadulterated profit. Through the highly massive hall, highly smoothly rolled a highly loud hum entirely of highly absolute approval. The highly elite investors highly satisfiedly fiercely nodded.